So, my topic today is flying by the seat of your pants, and I want to make sure we're on the same page with what this means. Here's the definition. To act according to one's own desires or beliefs without regard for standards of social behavior, logical sensibility, or the approval of others, generally regarded as negative or irresponsible. So the etymology of this interesting phrase, I bet you a lot of you are going to know this. There was a gentleman named Douglas Corrigan in 1938. He was an aviator. He was in New York and he filed a flight plan to go from New York to Dublin. It was denied, presumably on the basis that his craft would not make it. So he filed a second flight plan. He said, okay, can I go from New York to California? And they said, okay. So he began his flight, but he headed east and he ended up in Dublin. He said, oh, my compass has failed me, I'm so sorry. But it was presumed that he knew darn well what he was doing, and he just wanted to go where he wanted to go. It was reported in the paper that Mr. Corrigan flew by the seat of his trousers. That was the first time the phrase was in print. And he was thereafter dubbed Wrong Way Corrigan and starred in the film The Flying Irishman as himself. So this kind of fun, whimsical phrase got me thinking about flying by the seat of your pants as an approach to life and spirituality. Really, to me, the hallmarks of this approach are ease, liberation. It really requires that we follow our own intuitive knowing and act from our own truth, our own authentic selves. Now, our culture doesn't encourage this. In fact, I propose that it discourages it. It asks us to defer to outer authority, to take on what I would call perceived requirements, responsibilities, things like how much money we amass, how much security we think we've gotten for ourselves. Especially a lot of us are either in retirement or looking at it, standing in the community. I propose we're overplanned and overwrought. There's a lot of stress in this nation that really doesn't need to be there. My college students, I think, are a really good example of this. They, most of them, I will not say all of them, but most of them are not majoring in things that make their hearts sing. They're majoring in things that are going to give them a decent living. I think we're hyper safety conscious. I had thought of this. I had a financial planning session earlier this week, and the woman said to me, well, I'm going to plan so that you have enough money till you're 100. And I said, well, I'm going to have to work till I'm 95 in that case, so let's not do that. Let's call it 80. So she said, no, you're going to need long-term health care. Your health is going to fail. And she starts putting out on the litany of what's going to go wrong. And I said, no, I'm going to retire in 2 years at age 62, which was met with resounding silence because she'd already looked at my finances at that point. But honestly, travel and joy in my 60s are more important to me than healthcare in my 80s or 90s. So that's the way I'm going. Good friend of mine who's mid 80s, she said to me, I was talking about this concept to her, and she said, yeah, you know how many people constantly, friends of mine who know I'm healthy, who know I'm vibrant, tell me, you need to downsize, get rid of that 3-bedroom house, and get ready for when you are infirm. And make it so that your children don't have so much to go through when you're dead. It's like, no, let's plan, right? No. So we're going to try something else in the next 20 minutes. I had a challenging late spring. I had a standard doctor visit, some labs, and one of the labs of my white count was off. So that she sent me to a specialist man. And that guy said, well, yeah, that's of concern, but this is actually of more concern. You need to go to the other specialist man. I ended up in June going to 4 different specialists with all these labs being done. And on the table were all kinds of scary diagnoses, from kidney disease to leukemia. And I was full bore freaking out, believing all of them. I finally went to a good friend of mine she does different healing modalities of an alternative nature, and after an hour and a half with Marilyn, she looked at me and she said, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven within. I said, what? That's all you got? She goes, yeah. She goes, I see nothing urgent here. Go on this trip you have planned for this summer, find a little peace, and forget about it for the moment. So I said, okay. So why don't you start it? Thank you so much. So this trip I had planned was to just get in my car, head out west, primarily spend time in Wyoming, Montana, and Colorado by myself, hiking and camping. I was going to just live out of my tent. I was working online teaching, and I figured, what the heck, I can do that from St. Augustine, or I can do it from Montana. Why not go? So I did. Originally, it was planned as just an adventure, but after all this medical insanity, I decided to add another dimension to it. And the dimension was, could I live from another way instead of, oh, you guys are right, I just need to run around and be a scared person. No, I was not going to do that. So I aimed for this notion of, well, I'll get there in a moment, but my goal was to see if I could find more joy, ease, peace, more truth. Could I find a still place in the middle of disturbed emotions? Honestly, when I look back at it, and I don't usually use this word, those of you who know me know this, I think I was going to find God. God within, certainly. I needed to calm way the heck down. So I took on this trip as a laboratory of sorts. So I had ideas on how to do this. There were 3 of them. I would commit to live according to what I think life really is. And I distilled it down to this statement. All is well, all is source, the rest is inconsequential. Now, what do I mean by well? Well is an inner state, not an outer one. Everything be going to hell in a handbasket out there, but I know, because I've experienced it, that it's possible to be really grounded and really well no matter what. But I had lost a handle on that. So what's source? Okay, I just see it as energy, my energy expanding outward, the energy that imbues everything, okay, all of life. We don't really need to name it beyond that. I just see this as nature's way of living. There's not unnecessary stress or toil. There's really a living in the present moment. It's like, here we are right now in this moment. Does anybody have a problem right now? Anybody? No, you don't. Right in this moment, there's no problem. I love Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now. He says, when one is fully in the now, there are no problems, only situations to be dealt with. And if you take an example of physical pain, I can have something going on physically, and I can either resist it, oh my God, what does this mean, try to push it away, and thereby enlarge it, or I can just, yes, doesn't feel great, breathe with it, notice it, just be present with it. And you have your Buddhist wonderful man here all the time, so you guys get told this constantly because it sounds rather Buddhist, and it is. But they don't have a corner on the market of this kind of thinking. My friend told me she was in a car accident a couple of years ago, and she said, because I ran this concept by her, she goes, yeah, I was by myself, the car turned over, and then it stopped, but the engine was still running, and there I was, hanging by my seatbelt, thinking, now what do I do? She didn't flip out. It was such an emergency, she was right there. She said, I turned off the car and simply waited, and then help arrived, and all was well. So the second notion I was going to pursue or try out on my trip was surrender. Let life lead. Drop attachment to outcome and simply let it go. You know, notions of following the next right thing, going with the flow. We hear all these phrases, but it's challenging to do. I found this Rumi quote. Be crumbled so wildflowers will come up where you are. You have been stony for too many years. Try something different. Surrender. So this, of course, requires that we know or can follow where indeed life is leading, right? It requires what I would say is a development of our own intuition, our ability to hear and heed our own inner nudges. It's a practice. I think that when, and I found this to be true for myself, that when I actually pay attention, listen, and then take action on that nudge, that they get louder. The more I do it and the more I ignore them, they go away. And by the time I left on my trip, they had gone away. They had completely fled. So I said, no, I'm done with this. I got to try something else. And the third thing was that I would trust. So it's one thing to surrender, but without trusting that it's going to go well, it's a pretty scary thing to do. So I decided I would trust life, the truth that all really is well, even in the face of evidence to the contrary, because we know we have no lack of that in our lives. Even if scared or confused, I decided I was just going to roll with it. So I'd planned only 2 brief forays with a friend and then my daughter for this entire time. Otherwise, I was by myself, totally unplanned. And of course, right before I left, my siblings both crowed at me. This is terribly unsafe for a woman alone, especially one your age. I'm 60, right? Your car is too old to make it. It's an '03. At least plan your lodging. And I did. I swear to God, 2 days before, I was looking up airline flights. I'm like, they're right. This is lunacy. I'm ready to get a flight and rental car and just go for a week. And fortunately, fear did not win out. And I took off in early July in my '03 Subaru with my tent and some good food and enough camping gear to be comfortable. I didn't have to be home till the end of August, which is when I had to be back in person in Jacksonville at the university. And I really did fly by the seat of my pants. I'm happy to report I didn't plan my route. I didn't really know where I was going to go. I did not plan my sleeping spots. I just started to go with it. Now, it was scary at first and difficult at first. And the first night I didn't get a lot of sleep, and I wasn't crazy about it. But by the end of the trip, I felt like I was in the arms of bliss. I had just gotten into the mode of turning it over, surrendering, and trusting. Turning it over, surrendering, and trusting. And I want to give you a few examples of how this played out, because I had some really cool encounters. So one example, so as I said, I didn't plan where I was going to sleep at night. And one night, it was late. It was well past dark. It was about 10, 11. And I'm in Wyoming, some teeny little town, don't even know where. And I mean teeny little, to the point where I'm driving around trying to find a place just to pull over for 20 minutes so I could close my eyes. I was really tired. And I thought, I just need to sleep for 20 minutes, then I'll move on, find somewhere to lay my head for the night. So I pull over, and the sheriff comes up because I'm the only car driving around at 11 o'clock at night. He says, "Can I help you?" I said, "Sir, I'm sorry, I just need to sleep for a few minutes. I'll be on my way." And I'm sure he saw the Florida plates. He said, "I'll help you out. Follow me." So I followed him, and he leads me to this amazing little riverside park. It wasn't a camping area. He said, "You will be safe here. Please feel free to spend the night. It's not a camping place, but we're happy to have you here. And there's a river." And he goes, "That house over there, my dad lives in, and that right there is a public bathroom. So please, you're my guest tonight." I mean, I burst into tears, of course, once the man left, and had a beautiful night listening to the river all night long. This stuff happened over and over. As I said, I was teaching online all summer, and I had saved money, so I was being, responsible about the approach from a financial point of view. But it got a little more expensive than I planned for, particularly when my daughter was with me those few days, because, I'm splurging on food and so forth with her. And I started to rack up a credit card bill, which is not my MO, by the way. I don't live on credit. I don't like it. But I was grateful to have the credit card to take care of a few extra expenses. And she goes home, and I'm continuing on my way. And one day, I'm sitting at a traffic light, dead stop in Montana, and I get hit by this woman. It was a small fender bender, really. There's virtually hardly any injury to either car. Neither of us were hurt. But I did file a claim because it was not my fault. And when I got home, 3 weeks after getting home, I get a credit card bill for the trip, and I get a check for the damage to my vehicle. And the amounts were almost precisely the same, down to the penny. So I say, "Thank you, Dolores, for my trip expenses." I was like, really? And I'm looking at the two going, wow, in, out. One night I pulled in, again, kind of late to camp. This was at a campground, and set up. And then I realized all these people came back. The site next to me, there was a lot of them, and they were really loud, and they were rocking. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. So I moved. I got to another site. I did it, in the dark, just kind of spur of the moment. So I'm over there later, having a bite to eat at the picnic table, and I look over, and there's this beautiful man's wedding ring, large, heavy piece. So what the heck? This is interesting. I'll turn this into the ranger in the morning. So the next morning, I go over to the ranger, and I said, I found this, Site 23. And she looks dumbfounded. She says, "Where did you find that?" I said, it was on the picnic table at site 23. She goes, no, it wasn't. She said, that gentleman has been calling us for days looking for his ring, very distraught. There have been 2 other parties there since you. I can't tell you how many times I've gone over there personally and combed the place, including, of course, the picnic table, and that ring was not there. So I thought, wow, that is interesting. I wonder what the heck this is about. And this is true. Not 48 hours later, I received a marriage proposal. It was shocking, not really, because honestly what happened was, and this is a real marriage proposal, what happened was I visited, and this was not planned either, I just thought, oh wow, yeah, let's just do this. I'm kind of on the way. At this point I was starting to head home, so I was wondering if I would visit this friend due to time, but I decided to stop in, and we had a lovely time together. It was a very dear friend I've known for years, and something in the relationship had shifted, and the guy really asked me to marry him. But I thought, okay, now what's the chances of that? My last little example I'll give you is one evening I'd stopped for dinner, and I'm getting back in the car. Now, as Jack knows, I am not a habitual seatbelt user. Not proud of it, but it's how I am. And something told me, I'm getting in the car, and it said, put on your seatbelt. And I thought, oh no, am I about to get in an accident? What the heck is this? So I said, okay, I'll put on my seatbelt, because I'd learned by this point, do what I'm told. Put on my seatbelt. 20 minutes later, I get pulled over by a cop. The only time in 7,400 miles that I got pulled over by a cop. And he stopped me because the light bulb in my license plate was out, which is whatever. But I thought it was interesting that he couldn't ticket me for not wearing my seatbelt, which on virtually any other mile of that trip he could have. So he just, gave me a warning about the light bulb and sent me on my way. So there were countless hints and signs, synchronicities, nudges that happened all the way throughout. It was honestly magical. So 2 primary lessons arose out of this adventure for me. One was, when I choose a course of action, and it could be, and I mean I was choosing courses of action as small as what to eat and what to wear, to where to go, what to do, who to engage with, how do I feel about safety in certain places, all kinds of things. When I choose from a place that I'm going to call below mind, it's deeper than mind, there's a grounded kind of soulful quality, it goes well. It almost can't help but go well. When I'm up here trying to figure stuff out, yeah, it might go well, but you know what, it might not. I don't think up here, for me, has access to the level of information that down here has. And that may sound crazy. I don't think I can articulate it any better. There's kind of a inner knowing about which way to go. And every time I followed that, I was having, such beautiful encounters. I don't know if it showed. Oh, I think you just saw my 2 friends from France. I'm up hiking in the Rockies, in Rocky Mountain National Park, and it's thunder and lightning, and okay, we're on an exposed ridge. Yes, Hana probably shouldn't have been there, but I felt like it was okay. It really felt like the storm was not coming to this particular ridge. I'm up there. The only other people up there were Fleur and his son Robert, and Robert's 7 years old. So I passed them, and Robert says, would you like to hike with us? Because I'm thinking he's taking pity on me by myself, right? And I said, oh, no, I'm good. Thank you so much. You guys have a lovely day. And his dad says, no, he's scared, and he would really like you to come with us. I said, well, in that case, let's do it. Safety in numbers. And we had a beautiful time, and we didn't get hit by lightning, obviously, but it was just magnificent engagement, where normally, like, my mind would have said, nah, I like hiking by myself. See, I don't want to be held back by a 7-year-old, right? And then my gut said, no, pay attention. The second thing I learned was, I'm going to distill it down to, and I know this sounds counterintuitive, but stay with me. All I need and want arises as I need it. And I found this to be true over and over, okay? I don't need to know what's going to happen when I'm 87 right now. I really don't. Okay? I don't need to know what I'm going to eat for dinner yet right now. It'll make itself shown. There's an ease about that I've been finding. I can get scared still, like, oh, how's this going to go? But yeah, I can make that choice, but to me it's about a choice. No, I'm going to choose to do what I can in this moment, for this moment and other moments. Then I'm just going to be easy about it. Trust that life really will provide what needs to arise. You know, I couldn't help it. I thought of that Bible quote. Yes, I'm about to quote the Bible. Which of you, by being anxious, can add a single hour to his span of life? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin, yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Just let go. Quit working so hard at it, right? So I came home. I'm watching the time here. That's why I'm looking down at that. I went back to work at JU the fall semester, and I did last month my little round of labs to all my charming physicians, specialists, and this is the truth. Every single one looked over all my stuff, and every single one said, "Looks good, go away. We don't need to see you again." And I kind of knew that that's what was going to happen anyway. I would like to report that, I went on a cleansing, organic, immunity boost diet all summer. I did not. In fact, I discovered the joy of individual cups of uncooked brownie dough and uncooked cookie dough. You can buy them like in the gas stations out there with a spoon, and I would just sit. So my diet was, vacation diet, Hana's vacation diet. So what I think shifted was releasing of stress as a result of aiming to live differently. I really, really do. And we all know all the medical guys that have a little bit of an alternative bent to them. They say, yeah, you let go of stress and incorporate some mindfulness and stuff really changes. And I think that's true. So again, this notion of choice and practice, because this can be hard to commit to. For me, here I am back at work in the classroom, and they're annoying sometimes, and my kids are annoying sometimes, and there's challenge that arises. So in that moment, I get the choice. How am I going to approach this? And to me, it's an ongoing practice. So I just want to end with a short journal entry from my trip that to me has become my manifesto. Super short, but it's my manifesto. I read this all the time. Saturday, July 27th, Avalanche Lake Camp. It's simple, really. Keep your eyes on the prize and let go. Relax, release, surrender, trust. Enjoy what is in front of you without grasping or resistance. Accept, allow. Be soft, gentle, wondering. Liberation is a result of this in every moment. All is always supremely well. Namaste.